This is Alan Jones on Trial, a new podcast by Guardian Australia, and I'm Nour Haydar, coming to you from Gadigal land. We're nearing the end of week one of hearings in the criminal trial of Alan Jones, the veteran radio broadcaster whose voice reached millions of Australians, stands accused of 20 counts of indecent assault and 2 counts of sexual touching, brought by 6 complainants spanning almost 2 decades. Since his arrest back in late 2024 to now, Jones has strongly denied all of the charges against him. As he fronts court over the next few months, media correspondent Amanda Meade will join us each week to unpack the proceedings from the trial. Today, as week one wraps, we'll take a look at the opening statements brought by the prosecution and defence and what happened when the first of 6 alleged victims, complainant Jay, took the stand. Amanda, welcome.
Hi, Nour.
Alan Jones once loomed large over Australian media and politics, and on day one of his trial, as you would expect, there was a big media presence, wasn't there?
There really was. I mean, from 8:30 in the morning, media started arriving and they were covering the whole front of the Downing Centre in Sydney, waiting for Jones to turn up. As it turned out, he didn't arrive until just before 10 a.m. when the court was due to start, and the media just surrounded him and peppered him with questions which he didn't answer, and they moved very, very slowly along because he is an old man. He's 85. He has 2 hearing aids, 1 on each ear, and he has a cane. So he moved very slowly. He had security guards around him and his lawyers, and then they moved inside to the lift.
Amanda, there was so much media interest in this case that not all journalists could get into the courtroom to hear the opening statements, but you made it in. I was left outside waiting with a number of other journalists. So I was hoping you could take us through the prosecution's opening statement, the details of which have been held very tightly until now. Can you give us a general overview of what the Crown prosecutor told the court in that statement?
The prosecution is alleging that between 2003 and 2020, Alan Jones allegedly indecently assaulted or sexually touched 6 different men, that none of them knew each other, and that he had a tendency to prey on much younger men. We're talking decades, 40, 50 years younger than him. The prosecution has 6 witnesses known as complainants in this case. They're all people that were either in his circle, in his media circle, or athletes. We can't name any of them. They'll be referred to by complainant J or M and so on, all 6 of them. They're giving evidence via closed circuit television, and so the journalists in the room can see them, but nobody else, and we can't report who they are.
Amanda, what about the defence's opening statement? What did that indicate about the way that Jones and his legal team intend to fight these charges and their legal strategy?
The legal strategy is built around 2 points. One, that the stories that the men are telling are not credible, that they're trying to trip them up on dates and times, and also motivations, that they might be financially motivated to bring these allegations. And the other plank of it is that it was some kind of media conspiracy, that Jones had media rivals, for example, Ray Hadley, the other shock jock, and that Ray Hadley colluded or spoke to some of the alleged victims, especially the ones that worked at 2GB, where they both worked, and that journalists like Peter Fitzsimons and Kate McClymont, who worked for the Herald, were in collusion with Ray Hadley. We haven't had the details of that yet. We've just had a kind of sweeping, statement on how that that might have occurred.
His barrister, Gabrielle Bashir, began with the line that rivalry, treachery, double-dealing, money, hatred, desperation, opportunism, and more are at the heart of this case. And a lot of the media outlets ran with that line. Let's focus on the evidence that we heard throughout this week, and that was the testimony of one alleged victim known only by the letter J. What do we know about him and when he first met Alan Jones?
Jay has told the court on day one, actually, on Monday, they jumped straight into the evidence. He's told the court that he met Alan Jones when he was 14 or 15 years old. He was a champion schoolboy athlete, and he was interviewed by Jones at 2GB when he broke a record, and that Jones got in contact with his coach and when he was still at school and organised for him to come in for an interview. They then went on to have some meetings, and Jay alleged that Alan Jones gave him a phone so he could keep in contact with him when he was 14 or 15 years old.
Amanda, just to clarify, complainant Jay says that he met Alan Jones when he was around 14 or 15 years of age, but Jay has alleged that the offending began when he was 17 years old. Can you tell us, what did he describe to the court about those alleged offences?
In general terms, he's told the court that Alan Jones allegedly kissed him and groped him on his leg and his genitals while he was driving the defendant, and also that he indecently assaulted him when he was visiting his two properties. He visited him at Fitzroy Falls and also at his apartment in the Toaster.
So, Amanda, when did he allege that the offending began, and what did he describe to the court?
Jay told the court that he got the train to Circular Quay to visit Alan Jones in his apartment in the Toaster, that they went downstairs in the lift and Alan Jones paid for his dinner at a Chinese restaurant. Afterwards, they went back inside and they watched television together. It was a tennis match. And then Alan Jones according to Jay, made a inappropriate comment about the size of the genitals of certain sportsmen. And Jay had told the court that he thought that it was time that he should leave. And he stood up and said, I'm going to go now. Jay alleged that Jones held him by the shoulders, that his arms were down by his side, and Jones leaned in, gave him a kiss and said, "I love you, mate." And he said he just froze. He was asked by the prosecutor, Georgina Wright, did you consent to that kiss? And he said, no, I wasn't given the opportunity.
So that was the first incident that complainant Jay alleged took place. But then he also recounted a trip to Canberra that he says they took. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Jones asked Jay to drive him to Canberra, where he had to attend what he described as an election event. We never really found out exactly what that was. So he drove him to Canberra, and they didn't actually stay the night, but he waited there while Jones went to this meeting. And then when they were alone in the presidential suite, he alleges that Jones told him that he loved him and gave him a very sloppy kiss, which he described as a chomping kiss. After the Canberra trip, when Jones and Jay parted, Jay told the court that Jones said to him, "You've been a really good boy, I'm going to give you more money," and that after that his weekly stipend increased by $100.
Amanda, complainant Jay also spoke about a trip that the pair made to Alan Jones' property at Fitzroy Falls in the Southern Highlands, and he described a number of instances, both on the road there, but also once they arrived. What did he say to the court?
He told the court that on the way there, Jones was largely sleeping in the car, that he would wake up occasionally and get a fright and put his hand on his leg. The second time he did that, he actually put his hand on his genitals and squeezed and said words to the effect of, what's that? What do we have here? And it ended up being a situation where Jones allegedly touched him under his clothes for the first time, that he undid his belt and pulled his genitalia out of his underpants and squeezed it really, really tight.
Amanda, a bit of the evidence focused on a trip to Fitzroy Falls that the pair took to a property that Alan Jones has down in the Southern Highlands. Can you tell me what complainant Jay described to the court about that trip with Alan Jones?
Yeah, so complainant Jay has 9 separate incidents that he's alleged against Jones, and many of them happened on this trip, some in the car, some in the lounge room and some in the bedroom. They involved Alan Jones touching Jay both over his clothes and under his clothes while they were in the car, while they were driving to Fitzroy Falls. And then when they went inside, after dinner, they sat down to have a drink on the couch. And Alan Jones said to Jay, "Go and have a shower and come back in wearing a robe and nothing else." And then he actually yelled out as he was leaving. Jay told the court, "Remember what I said? Just the robe and nothing else." He then went and had a shower. He did put his robe on, but he also put underpants on. And he said when he came back, Jones opened his dressing gown and said, "I told you, nothing else." And he apologised, and he said that Jones was quite sympathetic to his apology.
Okay, Amanda, so complainant Jay stepped the court through a number of these allegations. He also said that he received financial payments and gifts from Jones. What did you make about the way that he described his relationship with Alan Jones and those payments that he was receiving?
Yeah, he explained that it was very conflicting, this relationship, because he felt that Jones was very supportive of him and his athletic career, and that he gave him weekly payments, that he helped him when his credit card was maxed out, that he bought him a phone and a car. But he said he was also really fearful of him, and that he was afraid that everything might stop if he ever reported it. Jay's told the court of Jones's generosity, financial generosity towards him over the years, which started off with a weekly stipend of $350 and then increased up to $600 a week. Those payments went for 9 years, just ending in 2012. He also, when he was still a teenager, gave him a new mobile phone, and he also bought him a Nissan Pulsar. He met him at a car dealership and gave him the keys to the car after he got his license. There were also one-offs, including he paid off his credit card once when it maxed out. And then there was one occasion where he visited him at the toaster, and Jones was very critical about his appearance, and he took out 5 $100 notes and told him to go and buy himself some clothes, which he did.
Yeah, Amanda, complainant Jay told the court that, quote, the friendship was tainted by the things that were going on. He explained to the court why he chose to speak to police about Jones, but that only happened after Jones was arrested. Can you tell me what he told the court?
Yeah, so these incidents allegedly happened in 2003, 2004, but he reported it after Jones was arrested, when he saw it on television, or he read about it, or he said that he might have seen it on social media. But he decided when he saw that Jones had been arrested that now was the time for him to seek justice. And he Googled the name of the police station that he'd heard on the news, and he contacted them, and the detective called him in for an interview.
We've also begun cross-examination of this complainant, but day 3 and 4 have been subject to a non-publication order. Firstly, Amanda, can you explain how that order works and what it means for us as journalists?
Yeah, we're already under severe restrictions in reporting this trial, in that you have to be in the room and you can't report who the witnesses are. But now there's another layer, which is we can't report any of the cross-examination of this witness by the defence. We're not able to report that because the judge is deciding what is admissible or not, and he wants to hear the whole cross-examination, which has been 2 days now and probably even longer, before he decides whether he'll lift the interim non-publication order or not.
So what have we been able to report so far from the cross-examination?
Gabriel Bashir has been cross-examining Jay about his motivation and the triggers for his complaint to police. She has been suggesting that he read the details of the reports and that he copied them, you know, that there was a 17-year-old and some of the other details, that they were similar. And he's been pushing back and saying that's not true. And she was saying, did you see this report in the Sydney Morning Herald? What about Kate McClymont's report? And he was like, no, I don't read newspapers. I don't even know who that is. And she was assuming a kind of media literacy that he didn't really have. And all he knew was that he'd seen reports that Alan Jones had been arrested and the general tenor of those reports rather than the specifics.
So the thing about this court, Amanda, is that it's quite a small room. Jones himself was seated only a row in front of me and a couple of seats over. I looked over and I watched him throughout Jay's evidence, and I'm sure you were doing the same. What did you see? What did you note about his presence, his demeanour in court?
Well, I feel like his mood has improved throughout the week. But he is listening intently, and he is taking notes in a little black notebook. He does sit, you know, with the lawyers and the journalists. There are only 3 or 4 rows, so we're all very close to him. And then in the breaks, he just disappears to the private room that's allocated to them.
And with this trial expected to run, Amanda, for 4 months, where to from here? Do we have a sense of what's coming up next week?
So they haven't told us how they're going to run the trial, whether it's going to be one complainant and then all of their witnesses, or whether it's going to be all the complainants one after another and then the witnesses, because there are 76 witnesses. So we may, in fact, move on to the next complainant next week, or maybe we'll still be on Jay and we'll be hearing from his witnesses. We just don't know. They don't give much away.
Amanda, well, this is all moving quite quickly. There is no live stream, as you've said, so we'll let you head back to court and I'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Nour.
Just after recording this episode, Judge Glenn Walsh lifted the non-publication order on the cross-examination of complainant Jay. Defence barrister Gabriel Bashir suggested to the court that Jay had a financial motive to report the alleged indecent assaults after losing his job. Jay denied fabricating the allegations against Jones. You can read the latest from the courtroom on theguardian.com. If this episode has raised anything for you, help is available. You can contact the National Family, Domestic and Sexual Violence Counselling Service on 1800-RESPECT. That's 1800-737-732, and Lifeline on 13 11 14. The series producer is Taylor Strano. Sound design and mixing by Jacob Round. Our theme music is by Joe Koning. The executive producer of Alan Jones On Trial is Hannah Parks. Don't forget to subscribe or follow Alan Jones On Trial wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Nour Haydar. See you next week.